For many years, British Airways proudly carried the title of the world's favourite airline, a symbol of prestige, excellence and the unmistakable British charm. But in 2025, does their first class still live up to the legacy? Today, I'm stepping on board their flagship Boeing 777-300 to see what their newest product is really like. Is it still world class, or has BA quietly misplaced its crown? With today's journey starting off at the architectural gem that is London Heathrow Terminal 5, home of British Airways. And no matter what happens on board, at least the terminal's guaranteed to impress. So for a change, I'm with Brent. We're heading to Heathrow Terminal 5, flying British Airways on the 777-300, which might not sound too exciting, but it's in first class and there's only 4 in total, and they have the doors. Gimmick possible? Is it fun? Yes. At Terminal 5, you'll find the usual check-in desks for economy and business class, but if you happen to hold Oneboard Emerald status, or you're one of the chosen few flying first class, there's a separate, ultra-exclusive check-in area. It's basically where the snobs and jet-setters go to avoid mixing with us mere mortals.
It certainly pays to go for the best.
Jokes aside, getting the status to use this part of the terminal was never exactly free. It usually meant digging pretty deep into my bank account. And British Airways decided that wasn't painful enough, and bumped the tiers even higher. So like many other so-called frequent flyers, I suddenly found myself rethinking where to credit my flights, because apparently loyalty now comes with a surcharge. Having cleared security, I'm now strolling through the British Airways Gold First Lounge, trying not to look too smug, and thinking about the eye-watering fare for today's flight. Now don't worry though if all this loyalty malarkey isn't your thing, you can just buy today's ticket outright, for the small sum of £7,000 one way. Yes, 7 grand to sit on a plane. Needless to say, there aren't that many pennies in my wallet, but stick around because later in the video I'll reveal how I managed to pay only a tiny fraction of the cash fare. You may have noticed that I spent no more than 20 seconds in the lounge. How odd. Until you realise that British Airways has a separate lounge, affectionately named the Concorde Room, which is British Airways' crown jewel. The lounge is so exclusive, it makes the business class one look like a waiting area at the dentist. Think private dining, fancy cocktails and armchairs so plush, you start to wonder if you're actually supposed to sit in them, or just admire them. It's sort of BA's way of saying, congratulations, you've made it. Now please try not to spill your champagne on the designer carpet. Although, the members of staff that work here are really charming and welcoming, so I'm sure they wouldn't say anything at all. It's no secret that if your stomach is even slightly rumbling, you absolutely have to try the dining experience. The food is served in charming little booths for up to 2 diners. White linen, a posh looking menu and dishes so delicious you'll wonder why you ever ate anywhere else, if it wasn't for the airfare. And the best part, it's served with lightning efficiency so you don't even have to awkwardly wait for the bill. This, my friends, is dining at its absolute finest. All that needs to be said is that every meal was beautifully prepared, and while I could tell you in depth about what each dish was, this was filmed back in 2024, and has likely changed, although the BA burger is always available and extremely popular. If somehow you manage not to overindulge and can actually stand up after dinner, be sure to wander over to the balcony. There you'll find 3 enormous plush sofas, a proper afternoon tea, and just for the aviation geeks, a nose cone from Concorde, giving a classy nod to the airline's legendary past. So Brent's gone to Fort Mason, I'm going to get a banoffee pie, and let's have a look at today's journey map. Today's fancy flight will whisk us away for 13 hours and 40 minutes, covering a colossal distance of 6,741 miles en route to the stunning city of Singapore. That's enough time to catch up on movies, meals and even question all your life choices, while doing it in a very comfortable style. But here's the interesting part. The flight was originally booked to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, not long after BA launched the route. But thanks to global supply chain chaos, Rolls-Royce, the folks behind the Trent 1000 engines on the Boeing 787, hit delays with engine parts. BA had to pull certain routes, leaving us with very limited options, so we were offered the choice to rebook over to Singapore and then pay for ourselves onwards to Malaysia. All of that, of course, feels like a distant memory now as I devour this absolutely stunning banoffee pie, perfectly paired with a beautifully presented pot of English breakfast tea. Today's flight departs at 21:10, and while we get to enjoy the comforts all the way to Singapore, some lucky passengers might be continuing onwards to sunny Australia. Either way, it's time to freshen up and dress up for today's occasion, so it's off the shall we go. Showering in airport, and for free no less, is certainly a privilege, though I can't help but hope that in the coming years it gets a proper refurbishment, much to the delight of many frequent flyers who, let's be honest, discuss this online pretty much every week. So this is the famous BA shower. I mean, having a shower in an airport is absolutely wonderful. They just need a little bit of a refresh.
I'm feeling the vibe.
So a phenomenal lounge, and now it's time to go get the flight. If you're wondering, yes, Brent is a little shy on camera, perhaps he'll say something later. But if this is your first time visiting Terminal 5, then take note. While the majority of short-haul routes depart from the A gate, which we're currently in, long-haul flights only depart from the B and C gates, of which only A and B have lounges. In order to get to the B and C gates, you'll need to take a shuttle transfer, so be sure to allow a minimum of 15 minutes.
The sky is dripping gold and wrapping around me. Life can be so wonderful, warm and gentle light. Nothing's gonna bring me down. I'm feeling so divine.
There have been rumours online, but I wouldn't take them too seriously because they go back a long way, that British Airways might consider opening another lounge here. Perhaps even they might convert the terminal for flights to the USA with pre-checks. But this is down to the government, who currently don't seem too keen on the idea. Otherwise, there are one or two shops, toilets and plenty of seating before we board today's flight. So to fill time, let's explore the seat map. Until the Boeing 777Xs start appearing, perhaps with the newest product for BA, there's only 4 of these in the fleet, and they are the Boeing 777-300 variant. They feature the new product with 2 rows of first class in a 1-2-1 configuration, and that very enviable Seat 1 Alpha, for those who desperately want something to post to their Instagram. And just behind, to fill the space between the first and second door, are 3 rows of Club Suite, which is ideal if you want a cosy cabin. Head back beyond door number 2 and you'll find a very dense business class with 15 rows of Club Suite, again in a 1-2-1 configuration. Over the 2 cabins, that's an astonishing 72 business class seats, and that's amazingly 4 less than an Emirates A380, of which the entire top deck is premium seating. Wow. Apologies in advance, I used my phone's built-in microphone here, which makes me sound like I'm narrating from inside a shoe box. Don't worry, all future videos and many from the past got a beautiful upgrade, so there's going to be a fair amount of narration. Moving on, while many joke about this being the best business class seat in the world, it's perhaps not quite as grand as some of its competitors, once you include the service. Indeed, during the course of the flight, somehow Brent, who was sitting in 1 Alpha, didn't even get his first choice for the main course, which was a surprise for a product which is branded First Class. Regardless of what others think, I've been dreaming of this moment since the doors were added, and this has been a dream of mine since I saw those blue windows on the product that's now sadly retired on the Boeing 747s. With 22 inches of width, this is an extremely comfortable way to sit, and it converts into a 79-inch long full flat bed. With stunning fabric stitching, this is a great way to travel. It could feel a little bit dark and perhaps corporate, but they bring it back to life with the warm beige tones, and this is extremely captivating table light. Waiting at the seat was a good size cushion pillow. Note that when you want to go to sleep, let the cabin crew know, and they'll dress up the seat for you with an even better one, and a duvet and other things. You can even store perhaps a shirt and not much else in this cute little cupboard. And there was a blanket opposite on the ottoman, just in case you get a little cold. Before even leaving the gate, I've opted for a glass of champagne, while other non-alcoholic beverages are also available. And there's a tasting dish of olives, posh cheesy breadsticks and mixed nuts, which are all wonderfully served in porcelain dishes. The cabin crew, who are also Italian and really lovely and bubbly, have also offered me a hot fresh towel, which makes a nice change, because usually the only time I get offered a towel is where I forgot to put it in the laundry at home. Usually by the person sitting in 1 Alpha. And this little beauty is the amenity kit. Nice. The amenity kit, it's produced by Temple of London, who also turned their Somerset countryside roots into a global bohemian luxe fashion house, known for dreamy embellishments, handcrafted prints and even designing pyjamas. There's a nice set of headphones and today's menu waiting for you at the seat. More on that after takeoff, which kicks off with a period drama that's basically Downton Abbey if it had a sense of humour.
Must confess a sentiment of the most tender nature.
Welcome everyone. We will now demonstrate the safety features of this aircraft, and your attention is essential as this may be different from any aircraft that you've flown on before.
Even though I like the old ones, I still find it rather funny. But I must confess that Downton Abbey is not my thing. Shock horror. And with it being night time and raining outside, the camera hates the task. So let's blink like it happened with the takeoff, and it's on to the in-flight entertainment. Fitting in with a theme of local and British, Meridian is a British audio technology pioneer, and is more than 40 years old, working with well-known brands like McLaren, Range Rover and even Kia. The square shape is surprisingly pleasing and comfortable on the ears, and they feature noise cancelling and sound that would impress most people. 23 inches is more than enough for an in-flight entertainment screen, although a few airlines are now making this the standard size in business, while First is reaching the heights of a whopping 32 inches. But I couldn't care less on today's flight, as it's crisp, it's a good colour and more than enough at this distance I'm sitting. Naturally there's a lot of content, but British Airways has one of the most extensive libraries outside the Middle Eastern carriers. There are of course all the latest blockbuster movies from Hollywood, but there's tons of British TV shows to enjoy, well if you know them or you fancy a gamble. Video games at the ready, Angry Birds should keep those little ones entertained hopefully for longer than 5 minutes. And a visually appealing map for those who are still doing that crazy and stupid raw dog challenge. Honestly, I think it's a trend that should just end. Departing at 9 PM, you could argue that by the time the meal service starts, I should be thinking more about sleep than eating, but that would be a crime of the century, unless I was lucky enough to fly this every week for business meetings at someone else's expense. Sadly, this isn't the case, so I'm compelled to try the food and get my money's worth. If you prefer to sleep first, ask questions later, then one of the perks of flying first class is dining on demand. You enjoy a meal at any time during the flight, just as long as your neighbour hasn't indulged in everything first, leaving you with, well, cheese biscuits. Of course, since we're departing from a country with more pubs than churches, the wine cellar is fully stocked, and the drinks menu is as varied as it gets. Whether you're after something boozy or just a soft drink, they've got you covered. Basically, it's less in-flight service and more flying bar crawl. Once you've settled in, it's time for a movie, a real pain, which ironically is the exact opposite of today's flight, which is smooth sailing all the way. The film follows two estranged cousins who spend most of it arguing, bickering and generally driving each other nuts, while travelling across Poland to honour their grandmother. Luckily you can sip along with a Fizzberry mocktail, a cheeky little mix of cranberry juice and Indian tonic water that's fruity, refreshing and just sweet enough to make the cousin chaos almost bearable. With Brent already eating and me staying on in jealous envy, the tray table quietly tucks out from the left hand side. Next up is the amuse bouche, which is a very British combo of goat's cheese, caramelised pear, fig and watercress. Honestly, despite the mood lighting doing its best mysterious shadow impression, it looks beautifully presented, though it didn't exactly leave us speechless. With a selection of different breads available for the starter, which is large enough to be a main course. I've chosen the British Wagyu carpaccio with artichoke, parmesan, horseradish and cream. With my mouth watering in every mouthful, it can only be described as spectacular. With 2 hours gone and 11 remaining, I've moved on to the Disney's Raya and the Last Dragon, which is a very satisfying film if you like animated movies, or you're just a big kid like me. For the main course, and with Asia getting even closer, I'm tucking into either the char siu pork or the chicken ko soy. I'm sorry it's been a long time and I can't remember which one it is. Either way, whichever meat it was delicious, wholesome and in no way bloating. If I'm going to be completely honest though, it felt more like a business class meal than first. Blame Qatar who dazzled me once with lobster and on some flights even offer caviar. After that, I treated myself to yet another life-saving cup of tea, because hydration is basically self-care, right? As for dessert, my brain was like, yes, but my stomach was like, bro, don't even try it. The crew then handed me one of those fancy hot towels, which honestly feels like being pampered at a spa, except it's 35,000 feet in the air. Quick pit stop to the bathroom, and then it's lights out for some much needed sleep. I can say with absolute certainty this is such a comfortable way to sleep. Plush linen and plenty of room. So less chat and more sleep, see you in a few hours, hopefully. Fast forward 5 hours and suddenly my entertainment screen decided to come alive, blasting me with the world's brightest shade of neon green. Honestly, it felt less like a glitch and more like I was being abducted by aliens. Jokes aside, I tried convincing myself to go back to sleep, but nope, my brain was like, nice try buddy, move on. So off to the bathroom again, and because I'm basically running on autopilot at this point, another cup of tea. Then it was back to finishing my dragon movie, which by now had more plot twists than my sleep schedule. With just under 4 hours left on the clock and Singapore getting closer, I felt surprisingly cosy for someone crammed into a flying metal tube. I decided it was time to switch gears and fire up Rocket Man, because nothing says mid-air comfort quite like Elton John in glittery glasses, belting out bangers while you sip tea at 35,000 feet. Honestly, I think Taron Egerton was born to play the role. I'm not quite sure about 4 PM in the afternoon, counting as breakfast, but we did leave the UK at night time, so it sort of makes sense. The table linen is laid again in beautifully white table linen, and perhaps I look like some sort of addict, but yes, another pot of tea. Honestly, it's probably the presentation and the beauty of pouring a cup that wins me over, and I'm pleased to say that if it was ever reclassified as a drug, I think I'd do fine. To start the meal service, yogurt is light and won't fill up too much space, while being fairly healthy. Followed by a full English breakfast, it may look similar to the one in economy, but it's elevated by the beautiful china plate and the tasty different tomatoes. The only question is, where did the toast go? Not wanting to look like a tea fanatic, I also ordered a refreshing glass of orange juice. And with the sun now shining and welcoming us to Asia, it's on to another Pixar movie. Luca is a movie about a young sea monster who discovers life on land, and that pasta is basically a religion in Italy. He befriends another sea monster, Alberto, and together they dream about exploring the world above the waves. Of course, they've got to keep their true identities a secret from the humans, which leads to plenty of funny, heartwarming, and slightly chaotic moments. At its core, it's about friendship, acceptance, and learning that the world is a lot bigger and more delicious than you first thought. You would think that I'd want to live here forever, but flying is exhausting and I'm more than ready to have a proper bed and not be surrounded by clouds. Which brings us to the landing. Cheers. Cool. Thanks, cheers. Bye-bye. For today's conclusion, I've come to Terminal 5. It's been a few months now and I'm flying Kathy's Aria business class suite today, which I'm really excited about. British Airways First Class, I can see why people are saying that it's sort of like business class, but the best in the world. It is officially a first class product. Maybe it's not quite as good as, say, Qatar or Emirates, but that's understandable. The cabin crew were really good on the way out, maybe not quite as authentic on the way back, but I suspect they were just a little bit tired. The seat itself is really good, good size in-flight entertainment screen, and the food is really good. Although unfortunately, Brent did get his first option and he was sitting in 1A, which is a tiny bit of a disappointment. So perhaps they could do with a bit more on board, or choice at least. And now the moment you've been waiting for. How much did it cost? Well, points don't grow on trees, but I used 119,000 Avios, which would have been times 4, except for I actually redeemed less because I had a gold upgrade voucher which upgrades for free to the next cabin, which was first from business class, as well as a 2-for-1 voucher achieved from spending on the American Express card. This was before they cancelled the flight to Malaysia and rebooked us, with others apparently being rerouted via Qatar, Malaysian Airlines or even JAL. I hope you've enjoyed today's video and thank you so much for watching.